The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read. Your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
As many Texans enter their second or third day without power, with no definitive end in sight, some are questioning how such a widespread meltdown is even possible. The answer lies with Texas's energy grid.
So Texas opted long ago to be the only state that maintains its own independent grid from the rest of the country and Canada. This is to avoid federal regulations, but federal regulations also force most electric producers in this country to be further winterized for situations like this.
That means power plants in Texas haven't necessarily taken the steps that others in, say, Minnesota or Maine or even Arizona take to ensure they can keep operating in frigid temperatures.
And this is the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. It's a beautiful Sunday out here. It's got snow on the ground, but it's just slowly melting away. Today we're going to talk about three subjects. We're going to talk about Texas and these Republicans down there who are basically everything they touch, whatever state they in, it goes to hell. It turns to shit. Excuse my language. But these people are anti-government, anti-establishment, anti-anything besides money in their pockets. You can't continue to run a country like that. It's okay to want wealth and go out and get wealth. But when it comes down to millions of people's lives at stake, just because you don't want regulations, it's getting bad. You saw it in Flint, Michigan, with the water crisis in Flint, where all the lead was in the water. It was a Republican-ran state. They tried to cut corners to save certain people money in certain big corporations. You see it in Texas with this blizzard down in Texas. Now that everything's frozen up down there, they want to blame it on new energy, windmills and solar, which is a lie. We're going to go into further detail about that, but first, I'm going to do my liquor tasting. This whiskey right here is called Tin Cup. It's made, it's 42% alcohol, 42% proof. It's made from a company in Colorado. And it's got some strange symbols on it. It looks like two sickles or two pickaxe in a cross. I looked it up earlier because I didn't want to be drinking something or promoting something that's satanic or got some neo-Nazi Germany type stuff mixed in with it. But the pickaxe cross or the hammer cross is a sign of miners. So Colorado is known for mining, gold mining, coal, anything that has to do with mining. Colorado is known for. So this whiskey right here comes with a shot glass. It's a standard shot glass. It's not big like the one I had the last week. I already took it off so I can wash it out. You always want to wash out any kind of shot glasses and stuff like this you get. You always want to wash it out before you sample your whiskey out of it. We're gonna give it a rating from 1 to 10. See how it tastes. Like my homeboy EA say, one shot, one kill. Whew. Oh boy. Whew. Tastes like it's almost 80 proof. It looks like a brown tequila. It's whiskey. It's strong too. I give it a rating about 8. I give it about an 8. This would be good to keep in your liquor cabinet, when you don't want to break out. And most of the liquors I taste is from the range of $20 to $30. Something that won't break the bank, but you can get a pretty nice size bottle to keep in your liquor cabinet. And this is something that you can you can have around for you and your guys. Y'all watching the football game or something, want to get a couple of shots, and you don't want to bring out the expensive stuff. The $70 bottles. You can put this out and get a couple of shots from that. But yeah, I get at about an 8. It's rough. It's called 10 Cup, people. My guy Ali down at the liquor store, he always try to find something good for me that I've never tried before to do my liquor tasting on the Daily Read. But let's get back into Texas and the Republican Party in Texas. Everything these people touch, it turns to copper. They thinking it's turning into gold, but it's turning into copper. It's terrible. We just found out that the Republicans down in Florida have allowed the people in Florida to run wild while the pandemic was going on. And now Florida is a dangerous place to be because they have 3 or 4 different strains of the pandemic going on down there. They have a South American strain, they have a European strain, and I think they got an Asian strain. So they got 3 or 4 different variations of the coronavirus in Florida because so many people down there were just running around while the rest of the country was basically being on lockdown. The Florida government know that their economy relies on tourism. So they kept they businesses open. They refused to shut down. People down there refused to wear masks. It was just crazy. Everything these people touch, it's all about big businesses, multimillionaires, and their money, white wealth. That's what it's about, white wealth. And they be damned if anybody else gets hurt by it. But the main reason I want to bring this up about Texas has been talking about seceding from the Union for a long time. I'm thinking, and the people ain't saying this, but they took themselves off the national grid. Now what that means is Texas has its own electrical grid. Texas has a grid where they rely solely on Texas energy alone. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. If you in California and your lights go out because the California electrical grid goes down, California can borrow electricity from other states to help them out. Texas is not like that. They grid went down and they couldn't borrow energy from any other states to help them keep their people in the heat. They wanted all the money to themselves, so they refused to upgrade their systems. And then you have all of this talk about seceding from the country, making Texas its own country. These people are crazy, ludicrous. But as far as the whole situation with Texas is, y'all got to remember this. They've been talking about seceding from the Union for a long time. And in order to succeed from a country that you're attached to, you have to have your own electrical grid. You see, the government should have put a stop to that a long time ago. That's the reason why these people, every few years when they get mad because a Democrat is in power or a Democrat is in the White House, they get mad talking about they're going to succeed from the government. They're not going to succeed, people. But you can tell somebody in power down in Texas has been making moves for that. And that's a major move. Whenever you separate yourself from the electrical grid, that means you're trying. That's like me staying in my mother's house. And my bedroom, I take my bedroom off of her utility bill, and all of the utilities in my bedroom, the water, the electrical, I pay for myself, is coming in from a different source than her electrical bill. Now, basically that's causing a lot of confusion because I'm attached to her house. I'm still in her house just like Texas is still attached to the rest of the country. It causes problems because now I'm going to want maybe a girlfriend to come in and out the house. No, you gotta tell her to come into the window. She can't come in the front door. Same way with Texas. If you want to separate yourself from the rest of the country, people can't come into Texas from our border. If they want to go into Texas, they got to come across the border in Mexico. You see the parallels I'm trying to show you people how these people are acting real crazy down here. They don't understand that separating yourself from the rest of this country when you're attached to this country is dangerous and it doesn't make sense. I'm going to continue on with this next clip because it'll give you a further understanding of what I'm talking about.
And while other states with interconnected grids can essentially borrow power from each other when demand spikes, Texas's go-it-alone approach left it without anywhere to borrow from.
You see, basically they showed you that map earlier of how the grid down in Texas is basically you got the east of the Mississippi grid and then you got west of the Mississippi grid. Those grids supply power for states like California, Colorado, Utah, all the western states. Then you got a grid that supplies power to all the eastern states. Then you got Canada is separated into like 2 or 3 grids. Okay. If any one of those grids shuts down, they can always borrow energy from another state because they're all connected. I'm going to say it again. Texas Republicans, everything they touch, they ruin it. It's all about oil, energy, and wealth for mega millionaires who got all of this oil money, and they don't want nobody to regulate what they're doing. Now they're trying to blame it on solar panels and windmills, which they're lying. They're trying to use something like that to rile up the base of their people who don't like energy like that. They want oil, they want natural gas, and that's it. But what they don't realize is oil and natural gases, when it shuts down like this, you got to rely on other sources. Not just solar and wind. You got to rely on the stored energy. Because what happens is solar and wind stores energy in what you call battery. They got huge batteries that look like buildings. That some of these windmills and some of these solar panels produce over energy, and they store it inside of these huge batteries that can help bolster the grid. They don't want none of that. Now they're trying to blame it on windmills.
The focus of some on renewables like wind and solar.
Joe Biden and Democrats better think twice about unleashing the Green New Deal on the whole country. Just take a look at what's happening in Texas.
Doesn't tell nearly the whole story. Only about a quarter of the electricity in Texas comes from wind and solar. And of all the power that went offline, about a third of it was from failures in the wind supply. The focus of some on renewables like wind and solar.
Joe Biden and Democrats better think twice about unleashing the Green New Deal on the whole country. Just take a look at what's happening in Texas.
Doesn't tell nearly the whole story. Only about a quarter of the electricity in Texas comes from wind and solar. And of all the power that went offline, about a third of it was from failures in the wind supply.
The man just explained to you people, a third of the power that shut down came from wind. A third. That means you still have over half of the energy that got shut down came from their malfeasance. Came from them messing up. Because they want natural gas and oil. It has nothing to do with just straight solar energy and windmills. we've entered into a new era of what I call the lying. Politicians have always lied and obfuscated, but now we're entering since Donald Trump, he's made it an art form to come out and just lie straight to your face. You know, it's a difference. It's a difference from the 1970s and 80s politicians who would tell half-truths and lie, but at the end they would try to do what's right. To these people just flat out with their bigotry, flat out with their hatred, flat out with the lies, and they don't care who call them out on it. They just don't care. It's a difference. We finna get into this first commercial break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about our second topic of the day, because a lot of stuff went on this week, and like I said, I hate to go back to Donald Trump, but some things are stirring in his cases. He has a lot of cases he's facing now that he's not president, and he doesn't have that protection of the presidency around him. We'll be back.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Me and Bae gon' always be tight, though you not with me every single day and night. Even when they start to acting like a fool, yeah, they loving every single thing you do. You know that they can always be themselves. They love each other more than anybody else. And every day as you see them on YouTube, you know there's not one, it'll always be just two. Too stupid Emily, too stupid Emily, too stupid family. They'll make you scream. It makes me wanna sing. It's a family thing, a family. Too stupid family, too stupid family. They'll push your buttons. It makes me wanna cry. It's a family thing, a family. Too stupid family.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Okay, we're back with the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. Again, I want to thank you all that's on YouTube and iHeartRadio and all the podcasters out there that listen to me, all my truck drivers out there. You guys have been supportive of me for the last year and a half since I've been doing this show. And I just want to acknowledge you, and I want to thank you. And anytime you have a topic, you can always email me at gentrymarcus1@gmail.com. gentrymarcus1@gmail.com. I'm going to try to put it in the description below so you can text me your topic you want to talk about. We're trying to move past Trump. You know, we're trying to move past the worst president of all time in America. We're trying to move past him. Like I said, a lot of things have happened in the news. Rush Limbaugh, he passed away, and it might sound cold-hearted, but you know, I have no remorse or no love lost there. I think the man was he had some bad ideas about where he wanted this country to go. And for over 20 years, actually 30 years, he's been in radio and for a long time. And he's part of the reason why you had a person like Trump, Donald Trump, run for president in the first place. The man was corrupt. He was a drug addict. And, you know, but he was a figure in radio. And I feel like, you know, we need to acknowledge that he did pass. He's been around for 30 years or more in radio and broadcasting, and he's gone. He was one of the staunchest Trump supporters, and he basically led the charge for Trumpism. I'm going to move on to this next subject. Speaking of Trump, the DA in New York has hired a top-notch attorney. This attorney is so feared when it comes to underground mobs that it's a wonder why when he left the DA's office and went into private practice, somebody didn't try to do something to him. Because this is how many people, the man he's one of the men who brought down John Gotti. Men like him and Mueller, who went after Donald Trump under the Russia investigations. Men like them, we don't know their names, but in the circles that prosecute people, lawyers and judges, these people are the business. They don't play games when it comes to tax evasion, mob ties. They hired this man specifically to go after Donald Trump and the Trump organization and to look over all of the files that they've acquired as far as Donald Trump taxes over the last 10 years, everything. The man is in trouble. They're not going to hire somebody like this if they're not ready to bring charges. And I promise you people, within the next month or two, you're going to see Donald Trump, his associates, and probably people in his family that's going to be indicted. It's about to get real for this man. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. This is one of my favorite programs, Rachel Maddow. Let me give you a quick example of what I'm talking about.
Lawyer for Bruno Indelicato, Mr. Whack Whack. The lawyer for him who turned that gangland bloodbath case into a legal landmark that still matters today, that changed forever the way racketeering is used in U.S. federal law. He's still around. That lawyer, as a prosecutor and then as a defense attorney, litigated dozens of organized crime cases, including some of the highest profile cases in the worst of the mafia wars in New York City. As a prosecutor, he ran both the appellate unit and the criminal unit at SDNY in 2 different stints in that storied U.S. Attorney's office. He ran both of those divisions at SDNY. With all of that experience as a prosecutor, he's now one of the highest profile, big deal, white-collar defense lawyers at one of the fanciest law firms in New York, a firm called Paul Weiss. And that lawyer just got a new job. The New York Times reporting tonight that earlier this month, he was sworn in as a special assistant DA, which seems like an unlikely title for a guy with that kind of pedigree and that kind of history, but that's what he is now. He's sworn in as a special assistant DA at the state prosecutor's office in Manhattan. He has taken leave from his very fancy private firm and instead taken a temporary gig to assist prosecutors in that office. He has upended his whole life in private practice, put everything else on hold. He's been sworn in with this special status. Also, he can work with state prosecutors in New York on precisely one case.
And that one case is Donald Trump. This man is a monster. Like I say, when it comes to underground mafia dealings, money trails, finding the money, going over tax evasion laws, this man is the cream of the crop. And Letitia, see, you got different districts in New York that's after Donald Trump. The Southern District is after Donald Trump because he's an unindicted co-conspirator in a money scheme to pay off a porn star. They're going after him over other things that they've uncovered while they were investigating that case. Now, Letitia, the DA in another part of New York, she's going after Donald Trump over the Donald Trump business itself, over tax evasion and fraud and all of that. So he's got charges coming out of New York. Then on top of that, Georgia, and everybody heard the tape. I'm not even going to play the tape here, because of time constraints, but everybody heard him trying to pressure Georgia officials into overturning the elections. Now, this is key when you're talking about overturning an election. Georgia has embedded in their state constitution that no one can pressure a state official to overturn an election. Now, Georgia Republicans are trying to change the law to protect Donald Trump. They're trying to change the law that says, certain rules can apply if you ask questions. So basically, they're trying to change their constitution to protect Donald Trump for prosecution, because they even know that Donald Trump was guilty of trying to pressure the state officials in Georgia to overturn the election. This is crazy. And they're doing it wide in the open. They're out in the open about it. They're not sugarcoating nothing. They're trying to change the law, but the Democrats in Georgia are putting a block on it. So now he has charges coming out of Georgia. Let's go on to the next clip, because this is important, people. This is important because Mitch McConnell said after he acquitted Donald Trump that he's not getting away with nothing. And people didn't read between the lines. People just thinking, oh, well, he did get away. Basically, Mitch McConnell saying, we finna wash our hands of Donald Trump. We're going to let the state and the criminal courts and the civil courts deal with him. Check this out.
And that one case is the investigation underway in that office of the Trump Organization. This is the ongoing criminal investigation of former President Trump and his business. It reportedly includes allegations of tax fraud, bank fraud, insurance fraud. It started with an investigation related to the hush money campaign finance felonies for which Michael Cohen went to prison, and which led prosecutors to describe President Trump as Individual 1, an unindicted co-conspirator.
As I said, Individual 1, unindicted co-conspirator. They couldn't indict him because he was the sitting president. The only way you can remove a sitting president is through impeachment. And you have so many radical, racist Republicans in Congress that they wouldn't impeach him. So now, Donald Trump just might have what a lot of people are saying is a pocket. How can I explain this? He has, a lot of people are saying in the legal circles, I've been studying up on this. It's what you call a pocket pardon. Okay? He didn't want to mess up his reputation with his base by pardoning himself out in the open. So he probably gave himself a pardon, but it's a pocket pardon that it won't be unsealed unless the feds indict him on something. But a way around that is the states are trying to indict him. In other words, the feds can't go after him for tax evasion, because if they do, once it gets to court, he's going to unseal a pocket pardon, basically pardoning himself and his kids from any kind of criminal law or criminal liability. The deal with that is it only applies to federal charges. It does not apply to the state charges, and it does not apply to Georgia charges in Georgia and New York. So he's in a heap of trouble. It's about to get real. Let's go a little deep into this.
That investigation by state prosecutors has since reportedly expanded to include wider allegations about basically the president and his company allegedly keeping 2 sets of books for various Trump properties, including Trump Tower. So they could, according to investigators, potentially defraud tax authorities and defraud banks and defraud insurance companies by using 2 different sets of books.
Now, let me break that down for you, for my people that like me to break it down for you. I'm going to use the truck driver analogy because I'm a truck driver. Some of us truck drivers, not all, some guys play by the rules, but you had some truck drivers out here who used to carry 2 log books. That way they can make their money any time of the day when they wanted to. And they didn't have to get no sleep. But what happened is a lot of these tired, sleepy truck drivers started running over people, killing people, having accidents. So now the government changed it to where you got to have an electronic log in your truck. That means that the state trooper can plug his computer in to your electronic log and see how many miles that you drove in this truck. Having two books before the electronic logs came out, having two books, if a state trooper was to stop you and look at your books, he can look at it saying that you legal to drive. But the whole time, if you drive over your legal time limit, you got another set of books that you use if you get stopped to show the state trooper that, hey, I'm still legal. He's not seeing your actual log books. He's seeing another set of log books. And for all of you truck drivers out there, y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to explain it to the non-truck drivers out there, basically breaking this down to you, what the Trump Foundation and the Trump Corporation is doing. They got two sets of logs. They got a set of logs that shows that their companies are not doing good. So whenever they get taxes, they can show the tax people that, look, my company is not doing good. So the taxes won't get taken out. They get more money back on their taxes. Then on the other side, when they want to go to a bank and get loans from a bank, they show the bank a different set of books saying that our company is doing good. We need a loan. This is how much money our company is making. We're not taking no losses. Give us some money. So basically, they're cooking the books. They're using two sets of books in the Trump Foundation. And this is why they hired this special prosecutor to come in and make sense of all this. I got a funny feeling that if they don't incarcerate Donald Trump and have him and his family members and his associates locked up for, he's an old man right now. Basically, he'd probably get locked up for the rest of his life. But if they don't, Donald Trump, until the day he passes, will be tied up in civil suits and criminal suits, criminal cases, until the day he passes from this earth. And even when he leaves this earth, his kids are going to be liable because most of his kids know what's going on. They're involved in this too. Donald Trump is finished. The Republicans, basically, they're still trying to play games like they still like Donald Trump and want him, because they're trying to appeal to his supporters. But behind the scenes, they're throwing Donald Trump to the wolves. They're definitely get rid of him. When we come back, we're going to talk about the last subject of the day. And it's almost a feel-good story. And I think we need that in today's times. We need to have feel-good stories every now and then, because something happened this week that, me being a long science fiction fan since I was a kid, you know, I can go back to the old kung fu movies where they were flying up on buildings and walking up walls and stuff. That's almost like science fiction. I can go back to Star Trek, you know, the original Star Trek with Captain Kirk. You know, I've been a long time science fiction fanatic, and I was always captivated with NASA and space exploration. So now the last topic of the day, we're going to talk about it. It's going to be a feel-good story, people. We're going to get off this doom and gloom for a minute. We'll be back.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
We think of history as something that's in the past and forget that we are making it.
Josh Hawley.
Oh, Josh.
You had it all. You were on track for a bright career.
So much potential.
A leader in American politics.
Building a legacy.
You went to the right schools.
Stanford, Yale.
You built your connections.
On your way up.
Won your seat.
A winner.
It had all come together.
You didn't learn a thing.
But then,
Sedition.
you made a choice.
The wrong choice.
A choice to stand against America.
Traitors.
You stood with insurgency instead of democracy.
What a waste.
You pledged your allegiance to Donald Trump.
You're his guy.
And all that came with him.
White supremacists.
These are your followers now.
Losers.
These are your allies.
You're a disgrace.
You made your choice.
What were you thinking?
The wrong choice.
What will you do now?
You can't distance yourself from
You
it.
can't escape it.
You led it.
They were following you.
This
Your fault.
is your coup.
Your failure.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
And we're back with the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. Again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in this Sunday on iHeartRadio and listening to some of the week's topics. And, you know, I try to pick the topics that stand out to me. It's a lot of things going on in America right now, especially with the pandemic. But Joe Biden is on top of that. But I wanted to do a feel-good story to end the show off today because, you know, we need that. There's very few places in the world of Earth that hasn't been explored, and unless you go deep into the South American jungles or you go deep into the oceans, it's very few places in the world that hasn't already been explored, mapped out, or seen. Now, the only other place to go is out into space. That's the reason why I'm making this last story of the day about NASA and the powerful move that they just made. NASA has been basically quiet for a long time. Money has been moved around for wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, the Middle East, and NASA has basically been put on the back burner. They recently shot a rocket off about eight months ago, a year ago. I think it takes almost 8 months to get to Mars. And there have been other explorations to Mars. The Russians done it. But once their Mars lander landed, it burnt out. And they couldn't bring too many pictures back. And all the pictures that they did bring back were black and white. You really couldn't hardly see anything. But recently, Mars has been explored by America. NASA has just successfully landed a craft on the Mars planet. Pictures are coming back from the surface of Mars. Never before seen pictures. I'm talking about these are better pictures than what you see on the moon. We've explored the moon and we've taken pictures from the moon. But this is very important, people. Mars looks like I've been to Nevada, and if any of y'all been to Nevada, Texas, Arizona, and you've been out in desert area where you see no trees but you see flat land, deserts, rocks, Mars almost looked like an empty place out in Nevada somewhere, or Arizona, the Grand Canyon, places like that. And they got stunning pictures coming back from Mars. I want to show you guys the moment that they touched down, and you can see these people. You can tell that these people are highly educated, and most of us, we only talk about the astronauts themselves, but we don't realize that there's a team of people back here on Earth that helps those astronauts navigate space. They sit in those cubicles, they sit in front of those computers, and they guide the astronauts and the space shuttles out into space. These people are highly intelligent, and you can feel the tension in the room because they was thinking that once that craft landed on Mars, it was going to burn out like all the other crafts that have ever landed on Mars, and very few pictures came back. But this was a successful mission, and it needs to be noted in history. Check this out, people.
Yes, yes, yes.
Perseverance now has radar lock on the ground. Current velocity is about 100 meters per second, 6.6 kilometers of the surface. An altitude of 4.2 kilometers. We have confirmation that the lander vision system has produced a valid solution and part of terrain relative navigation. We have timing of the landing engines.
We're getting signals from MRO.
UHF is good. Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life. At this point, the descent stage has flown away to a safe distance. Perseverance is continuing to transmit.
I had to show you guys that because, like I said, NASA has been quiet for years on things that they're doing as far as space. We do have a space station up there. It's a global space station that has multiple countries send spacemen up there. It's strange to say that, spacemen, but that's basically what these people are. They're astronauts, they're spacemen, and they send them up there to do tours in space on the space station. So NASA has been very quiet recently, and they've been secretly working on this, and I guess they didn't want to tell too many people about it because, you know, just in case it didn't go right, but it was successful. They literally have a remote control truck. It's more than a truck. It's how can I put it? It's a laboratory / truck, like a rover. It's huge, and it's basically remote control that they can drive it around from Earth on Mars. This is wonderful. This is some stuff that's going to go down in history, but because of all this foolishness that's going on with our government, it's been under the radar. The last thing that I remember coming out of NASA, I was a kid, and the first teacher went out in space, and this was the second time that I've dealt with death, which why it struck me hard when that teacher died going up into space. She was going to be the first teacher to go up into space. I'll never forget it. I was in a woman named Miss Ramsey's class, and she told all the kids to put up all our books because we're going to listen on the radio to, because back then we didn't have televisions in the classrooms. She turned on the radio. This was in '86. She turned on the radio and let us listen to a live broadcast of the first teacher going out in space. And she was so full of pride. She was a black lady. She was so full of pride. All the teachers was gathered around in the hallways. They would go back into class and listen. And when that space shuttle exploded, you can see the tears running down this woman's face, and she ran out the classroom. I'll never forget that. And I wanna play a brief clip of that because I want you guys to see how far we've come when it comes down to space exploration. And just listen to the stunned expressions on and these commentators talking about it.
So the 25th Space Shuttle mission is now on the way after more delays than NASA cares to count. This morning, it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Looks like a couple of the solid rocket boosters blew away from the side of the shuttle in an explosion.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
Her name was Krista McAuliffe. You guys remember her name, Krista McAuliffe, the first teacher that tried to go out into space. She was not an astronaut. She was not trained, but she was doing it for the sake of teachers everywhere who teach kids how to be more than thugs and criminals and street hood. She was trying to show people that, you know, teaching was more. It was more to it, you know, to teach somebody else something that's greater than what they have going on in their lives. And Krista McAuliffe, never forget that name, people, because somewhere in heaven she's probably smiling right now to know that NASA never gave up. And they finally did it. Like I said, other countries have tried it. They've put land rovers on Mars, but they wind up breaking down. They wind up burning up in the atmosphere. They never was able to get something on the ground in Mars that was usable. But now America has finally done it. And I'm going to leave you on this final note to show you the first pictures that's coming from Mars.
This camera is mainly used to help the rover drive safely around Mars, and we will get higher resolution photos later in the day.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Business.